Hello, my name is Matthias and welcome to the FPL Scope and my team selection video for Gameweek 29, where I'll be using my free hit. So you'll get to see my free hit drafts for this upcoming game week, and this time it will actually be my actual team, which is different to what I usually do in this videos where I present the free hit draft if you're free hitting this week. But I'm free hitting myself, so I'm going to present to you my team, even though it's not probably the optimal free team. I think ideally, because West Ham are playing and I'm a West Ham fan, so I'm going to be a bit biased towards them. I'm going to present my team, and then in the FPL Score podcast coming up tomorrow, you'll be able to see my actual template draft instead when it comes to free hit. But before we get to my free hit plans for Gameweek 29, we have to talk about Gameweek 28 and what I did in Gameweek 28, and it ended up being once again another really nice game week for me. Getting a green arrow up to 12k overall now. I'm really close to getting into the top 10k, only 4 points behind the top 10k. I will need to change my graphic from saying points behind to ahead of the top 10k pretty soon, I think, because I think with my free hit in Game 29, something has to go super wrong for me not to get into the top 10k next game week. So really happy about where I am at this point of the season, 1,800 points total. Really happy about that. 75 points this game week as well. Did one transfer, that was Virgil van Dijk out. He got a blank, got 2 points against Man City, and brought in the legend Ilya Sabarny from Ukraine and Bournemouth, more importantly, who scored his second career goal. He's only 22 or 21 years old, so to be fair, he hasn't played too many matches, but he's played almost 200 matches in his career, and this was the second time he scored. After being quite disappointed with Bournemouth conceding in both games, both at home to Sheffield United and then at home to Luton. It was so nice to see Sabarny scoring that goal from the set piece and giving Bournemouth life in that match as well, after Solanke had given them not given them the lead because they were down 3-0, but given them hope, and that hope led them to winning the game, and Sabarny and Solanke both scoring. Doughty and Morris, two players who were really highly owned that I didn't own myself, they both suffered from that as well. So yeah, just all in all, really happy with this game week. I didn't go too hard on the double either. I could have also done a -4 to sell Areola for Neto. That would have cost me 2 points because it would have been a -4 transfer to bring in a goalkeeper that got only 2 points more than Areola. So in the end, I'm pretty happy I didn't do that either. So everything almost went to plan this game week. The only one thing that I did, the only one mistake that I did this game week was benching Garnacho for Foden. And this was sort of a 50-50 decision. Talked about this in the past team selection video last week, that I was kind of wanting to play Garnacho as well, but at the same time Foden was turning into a differential with a lot of people selling him, and I felt like it just was too hard to pass up when Foden has been in such good form and playing against a pretty depleted Liverpool side. But Man City struggled against Liverpool, and Foden didn't really do much either. Same goes for Haaland, who's also kind of a differential at this point when a lot of people sold him for Morris and stuff. So kind of disappointed in the City guys not getting more against Liverpool, but still, apart from that, the game week was absolutely fantastic. Haven't even talked about Ait Nouri yet. He scored a goal for me for Wolves. Again, sadly, he had to concede right at the very end before he was able to get his 15 points and his clean sheet and bonus point. He got 2 bonus points in the end, but he would have had 3 bonus points and the clean sheet if they had not conceded in the final minute. But I think all in all in that game, it was kind of deserved that Wolverhampton conceded, and I didn't really expect an Ait Nouri goal either, even though he is really offensively minded, and that's why I brought him in for Game Week 27, and now he scored 12 points for me in Game Week 27 and 10 points for me in Game Week 28. So I can't really complain. Even though I am complaining a little bit because I really wanted that 15-pointer, just like I did a couple weeks ago when Branthwaite scored for Everton, and then they conceded in injury time as well. So 2 injury time goals has cost me about 11 points from those 2 games, but at the same time, I can't really be too mad at Ait Nouri getting 10 points and Branthwaite a couple game weeks ago getting 9 points as well for my starting team. So really happy with my cheap defenders. Gusto as well is looking really good. I benched him this week, but he did look pretty offensively minded and good again against Newcastle. So really happy to have him going forward as well. So I'm pretty happy about my defense all in all. Gabriel got a 1-pointer, got a yellow card, and didn't even keep a clean sheet against Brentford, which was disappointing. And Saka got a 2-pointer as well, which was also kind of disappointing. But again, there were a lot of disappointing players this game week, but a lot of players that also did really well, and I had most of the players that did really well. I also have Palmer scoring 13 points, a goal and an assist against Newcastle. Palmer just keeps improving, or keeps proving that he is one of the best players in the league, to be honest, and a really good signing for Chelsea, and a really good signing in FPL as well for anyone that has had him for a long time. He's just been absolutely terrific for his price, and yeah, a must keep for the entirety of the season basically at this point. Solanke, my captain, ended up with 16 points. I did touch on that a bit earlier. He scored that really nice goal that gave Bournemouth the hope and basically what they needed to turn that game around and turn a 3-0 loss at halftime to a 4-3 win in full time. But yeah, Palmer 13 points. Son, obviously, my highest scorer with 17 points. Pretty much helped by Aston Villa getting down to 10 men due to a stupid horror tackle or horror kick by McGinn, who just lost his head and kicked down Udogie for no apparent reason, getting him a red card. That really helped Son getting his final goal and assist towards the end of the match there and getting 17 points. So yeah, again, I did Foden and Son back into my team in game week 27, I should say, or 26. In one of these past game weeks, I brought in both not Foden, Palmer and Son, 4 hits, to get Son at least. And that has paid dividends 100%. I sold Kevin De Bruyne and I sold, I can't even remember the last guy I sold, but either way, gained a lot of points. Jota is the one. I sold Jota and De Bruyne and got back Palmer and also brought in Son. And that has been a huge success for me, on top of having out Nori as well, another transfer that I've done the last few weeks, and Sabarni this week as well. My transfers just keep performing now these last few game weeks, so I'm really happy to see that. And now this upcoming game week, game 29, I'll obviously have a lot of transfers because I have the free hits in play, so that's going to be really interesting to see. So yeah, just wrapping up the whole game week in game 28. Really happy about the score. Yes, I could have hoped for a couple points from Areola against Burnley at home, but West Ham are just continually disappointing, even though Areola keeps getting a lot of points in several weird matches. So I think I might just stick to Areola and goal for the most part of the season now, because he gets those huge scores now and then. So that's a bit of a spoiler as well for my free hit team. But yeah, all in all, game 28, absolutely fantastic. 4 points behind the top 10k. Most likely going to be inside the top 10k next week with the free hit in 29. And looking at my team, I'm pretty happy about my team going forward as well after game 29. I have a lot of players that I want really going forward after that. I have 2 Arsenal players who play at City, and I have 2 City players playing Arsenal. But I'm going to sell Foden most likely for Salah in game 30. I have the money in the bank to do that move as well, because I have a pretty cheap team with Gusto, Branthwaite, and a lot of these cheap players, including my goalkeepers as well. So I'm pretty well set up to get in Salah without a hit in game 30, which is amazing. I still have Haaland. I don't need to transfer him back in. I still have all the essential players like Palmer, Son, Saka. Going to get Salah, like I mentioned. Garnacho is going to be really nice for double game week 34 because I'm not using my free hit in 34. So my team is just really well set up for the future and really excited to see what's going to happen going forward. But before I go into my free hit team for game 29, I always present a free hit team in this team selection video, like I mentioned earlier. And I did that for game 28 as well. I did make a free hit team for 28, but it remains to be seen if that was good enough to beat my game 28 score, because obviously I have out Nori and Son, 2 players who weren't that popular for game 28 in particular, in terms of like the double game week with Luton and Bournemouth, because most people will be loading up on Luton and Bournemouth players. But yeah, let's just move on to the free hit drafts for game 28. And it actually scored 11 points less than my own team did. And mostly it's down to those 2 guys. Out Nori getting 10 points for my team, and Son obviously getting 17 points. Having Son over Bowen probably could have been a better idea, but at the same time, Bowen had Burnley at home and Son had Aston Villa away, so it made sense in my mind at least to go with Bowen rather than Son, for example. Also went with Havertz, who got the game-winning goal against Brentford for Arsenal. Pretty happy to see that come to fruition as well with his points. Doughty with the 5 points. Happy that he didn't score more in actual FPL, because he was a pretty big detriment to my squad. It was looking a bit nervy there as well for me with my own team. Doughty getting the assist and Luton having a clean sheet and a 3-0 lead at the half. It looked pretty bad for a potential haul from Doughty, and as well, I even said Doughty there as opposed to Doughty. I don't know how you pronounce his name, but whatever. He also had a couple really nice crosses to Morris, who easily could have scored as well. Morris got only 4 points from a double game week, which is 2 blanks basically. But he easily could have had way more points than that as well. So I'm not really too unhappy about Morris as a selection in my free hit drafts, and I'm certainly happy about him only getting 4 points when I didn't have him in my own team, when a lot of people had sold Haaland to get in Morris, for example. So really happy about that. The one thing that I'm really unhappy about when it comes to my free hit draft, and a really late decision I made on the free hit draft last week in game 28, was the fact that I had Semenyo as my second striker, rather than Watkins. I think I had Semenyo as my third striker, I should say, in this team. You can actually see, if you look at the video, the team selection video from last week, if you stop the video at the right moment, you can see the graphics change from Semenyo to Solanke, because I had to do that after recording the video. I had to basically make a layover graphic over the Semenyo name, as I had him as my favorite differential as a striker actually. You can see that in the team selection video from last week. But I didn't end up going with Semenyo in the end in the free draft, as you can see. And that was a mistake because he got 15 points. So that would have been really nice to have him rather than Watkins, and that would have made this free draft actually better, most likely, than my own team as well. But all in all, can't be too unhappy about the selections here. I had the double Luton, I had triple Bournemouth, which made sense for the week. I had Palmer with his 13 points at least. He looked like a really good prospect against Newcastle. Probably should have had Son, because Son is just amazing. But again, I think this is also another reason why I'm free hitting in 29, and another, like, I would say proof, I guess, for why I prefer using free hit in a blank game week rather than a double game week. Because as you can see, on a free draft in 28, I would go without a player like Son, who's amazing and really good value because he has a single game week, and go with double game week players instead mostly, and leave not enough spots for a lot of the good single game week players. And I think that could be the case in game week 34 as well. I think a lot of people can sell the likes of Saka, potentially even Foden or Son or someone like that, who has like a really nice single game week fixture, and then they buy in players from Crystal Palace, Newcastle, and Man United, who might not even get that huge of a score, as we've seen from a lot of double game weeks now. Actually, the double game week with Man City and Liverpool was basically not really worth it, and this game week as well. For some people, it was worth it. Some people who brought in Sabarni, for example, with 8 points, was really nice. The Semenyo, obviously, if you had Semenyo, that would have been really nice. Solanke was a given. I think Solanke was in most squads anyway. Even without a free hit, he would have been easily in the squad. But I think it's just easy to sort of let the good single game week players by the wayside when you have double game week players staring you in the face. So I think that's why I prefer Game Week 29. I can select 11 players that will have a single game week, and they will not be outscored by anyone with a blank game week, because obviously if you have a blank game week, you can't score any points. So I think that's my biggest reason why I'm free hitting in 29, and why I'm looking forward to do that. But yeah, just wrapping up the free hit draft for Game Week 28. Obviously a couple of changes I could have made. Semenyo was the last change that I did before I presented the team, and yeah, pretty unhappy about that. But yeah, all in all, not the worst free hit drafts. Could have been better. It was worse than my own team, obviously, which is always a downside. But at the same time, a gamer rank of about 1 million, which is pretty nice. I usually want better for a free hit draft, especially in a double game week. But it is what it is. 64 points isn't too bad. And I hope, I did also say that I didn't think Game Week 28 was a good free hit draft week. I think I said that last week as well. So that's obviously changing now, because I think free hits Game Week 29 is the ideal or optimal solution for a lot of teams at least. But we'll see in the FPL Score podcast that there are other teams that might not be as suitable for free hit in 29. But yeah, we'll get to that in the FPL Scope podcast tomorrow. But yeah, Game Week 28 free hit draft, not the best, not the worst, decent. I'm happy that my own team actually did better, because that means that Morris and Doughty didn't do that much, but Morris easily could have had a bigger score. Bowen as well is kind of interesting, because he's going to be a popular Game Week 29 player as well. But yeah, we'll talk about him in the next segment, which is my free hit draft for Game Week 29, which is also going to be my team selection for free hit in Game Week 29. And like I mentioned, this is kind of based on my West Ham bias. I'm hoping West Ham will do well. I'm sort of just using this as an excuse to just have fun with it and pick 3 West Ham players and hope that West Ham do well. Obviously, I still have Watkins playing against West Ham, because I need to sort of guard myself against people that have Watkins, and I wouldn't really sell him when he's been so fantastic this whole season. So Watkins makes it in there, but he's the only Aston Villa player I have, apart from Pau Torres on the bench. And I have triple West Ham, which is kind of controversial playing against Aston Villa. It also depends what happens now today, as I'm recording this on Thursday, with both West Ham and Aston Villa playing in Europe. Maybe one of the teams plays 120 minutes and has like a grueling matchup, and maybe the other team plays 60 minutes and then they can cruise through to the next round, or can rest in some way for the weekend. So that might influence how you evaluate what to do with West Ham and Aston Villa players, because I think that's the game that is the most pivotal, because it is the only Sunday game, and it is between 2 teams that have a really high ceiling and a really low floor, like we saw with Aston Villa this past game week. Aston Villa have made a habit out of following up a loss with a really nice win the week after, so maybe that's the case. Maybe that's going to happen again this time. But again, West Ham are playing at home. I'm a West Ham fan, so I just want to back my guys. I want to back Kudus, for example, who's not going to be in many free hit drafts or many Game Week 29 teams in general, especially for those that don't free hit, because Bowen is the more popular pick. So it would be really nice to see Kudus score a goal or two, or potentially get some other returns, because he has that in the bag as well. Kudus is such an amazing player, and playing at home to Aston Villa isn't that bad considering how bad Aston Villa are defensively at the moment. So yeah, I think both Bowen and Kudus are really viable options. Areola, maybe not so much, but at the same time, it's also sort of safeguarding me against people that don't free hit in 29, because most of those guys have Areola as their goalkeeper this week. And we've seen Areola in these matches against tougher teams. He can get those 13, 11, 14 points type of double-digit hauls in these types of tough matches. So, I don't know. I can't really see any other standout goalkeepers. You could have someone like Flecken, for example. He's also someone that I might bring in, but at the same time, if I don't go with certain players, I might go with Wissa as my starting striker as well, on top of having Tony and Reguilon, who I think are pretty nailed in my team. So yeah, I don't think I'm going to go with Flecken. Maybe I'll go with Sells against Luton, but I think Luton usually score at home, so that's going to be a difficult pick as well. Maybe Kaminsky, but I do have a lot of faith in Elanga, as you can see. I have him in my team, so a lot of different things we can go and talk about with this team. But let me just go through each and every player rather than talking about West Ham like I did just now. But starting with West Ham actually, and the goalkeeper Areola, I think, like I said, that's the player I just mentioned. I don't think there are any good goalkeepers this week, so might as well just pick a goalkeeper that has shown that he can get really high scores and can make a lot of saves. I guess something with the West Ham style of play lends to a lot of shooting chances for the other team and a lot of save possibilities for Areola. So I think he can get a decent score even without a clean sheet, as he's shown a couple game weeks ago as well, or 2 game weeks ago, I think, when he got 13 points against Everton with a penalty save and a lot of saves apart from that as well. So Areola, just a nice safeguarding goalkeeper for anyone that's not free hitting, and it's also really not that big of a risk. Like, you can't really imagine a lot of goalkeepers getting those high scores. Usually the high scores from goalkeepers are in those matches where you do struggle and play against a better team that you somehow get a clean sheet against, or you get a lot of saves and bonus points from that. So yeah, I think Areola is just a nice, safe goalkeeper. There aren't any other standout goalkeepers, and he's just a nice way to safeguard you from other goalkeepers or other players who don't free hit in 29 as well. So yeah, that's why Areola is in goal. When it goes to the defenders, I have Udogie rather than Pedro Porro, and yes, I have the money in the bank to have Pedro Porro, and he is going to be the way more popular pick. But at the same time, Udogie is just my guy. I had him in Game Week 1. I have him in my zombie team sort of suggestion before the start of the season as well. The team that was going to last for Game Week 1 until Game Week 38 without a transfer. So I just had a lot of faith in Udogie to start the season. And I think I also, I've talked pretty highly about him compared to Pedro Porro for a lot of this season in general. I do like Pedro Porro, don't get me wrong, but at the same time, we only have 3 Spurs spots here, and I'm not going to use 2 spots on defensive players for Spurs. And I just have a better feeling when it comes to Udogie. I think he's more offensively minded than Pedro Porro when it comes to potential scoring goals and stuff. Pedro Porro hasn't really shown that under Postecoglou, that he can score a lot of goals. He's been more of the assist kind of guy from especially set pieces, but who knows how many set pieces he will take as well with Spurs and Maddison now being back. It's going to be not 100% set piece duties for Pedro Porro, even though he's going to take quite a few of them. So I just like Udogie slightly better, and just for the fact that he's sort of like my guy, my pick. I just really like Udogie, so I go with Udogie or Pedro Porro, but I think the safer choice would probably be Pedro Porro, because he has those opportunities to set or to get points from set pieces and stuff, more so than Udogie. But I don't know, I just like Udogie as a player in general, and I backed him this whole season, so I feel like I just want to go with him, because yeah, he's been my guy all season basically. So yeah, he makes it into the team. In the defense, also have Reguilon from Brentford. He's pretty nailed in the team, assuming he's healthy and fit to play. And it seems like from the comments from Thomas Frank at least that he's going to be ready to play. He's just really attacking. So my thought with all the defenders is the fact that I don't really expect any clean sheets this game week, but I do expect potentially some attacking returns. So I'm picking the most offensively minded defenders that I can find in this game week, with decent fixtures as well, as you can see. So Reguilon, really attacking. He's been amongst the assists and almost goals even the last few game weeks for Brentford. He almost scored in that game against, not against Arsenal, but against Liverpool or Man City, I should say, in the double game week where Liverpool and City played Brentford. But either way, he was really close to scoring in that game, and he has had a couple of assists this season as well. Really attacking fullback, and I really like the look of Reguilon going forward, and maybe we'll be looking at that clean sheet against Burnley as well. That could happen. Burnley are not the best team, so that could also be a possibility, even though Brentford concede in most games. And I think they have like 1 clean sheet in the last 17 games or something like that. So yeah, it's more for the offensive-minded nature of Reguilon. He's also on some set pieces as well, like I mentioned with Pedro Porro. Reguilon has that for Brentford, takes a couple corners for Brentford, so he can get points that way as well. So yeah, I quite like Reguilon going forward. Not too hopeful of him getting a clean sheet, and not really too hopeful of him getting attacking returns either, but the slight chance of either or both, which would be amazing if he gets both attacking returns and a clean sheet, that just makes me feel good enough about Reguilon to have him pretty securely in my team. Then we have Alfred Doughty, who is the main man offensively for Luton. They do have a pretty nice fixture against Nottingham Forest at home. Nottingham Forest haven't really been the best in terms of scoring goals lately, but as you can see, I have a Nottingham Forest attacking player here, so I'm not really expecting Luton to keep a clean sheet, but they do also score a lot of goals, and Doughty is the provider usually for those goals. He was in a really nice position for his assist in the game against Bournemouth. And I can see him doing sort of that type of stuff as well in the game against Nottingham Forest as well. Doughty, again, is another player who's nice to safeguard you from all those guys who are not free hitting in Gameweek 29. I like him for that fact as well, and just the fact that he's really offensively minded, like I said, with both Reguilon and Udogie, picking the defenders that are more viable to score points offensively rather than players that could potentially get clean sheets, because I can't really see any clean sheets this game week. It's probably going to be 1 or 2 clean sheets, but it's really hard to predict who's going to get the clean sheets. So just going with the attacking players, so Doughty fits in nicely in that way as well. Then we have the double Spurs midfield with Son and Maddison. I think this is going to be pretty much like 95% of free teams are going to have both Son and Maddison, and probably around like 75% of teams will have Son captain as well. And I'm no different. I'm going to have Son captain. I've been sold by him lately in these past few games as well, 17 points. He's actually really good away from home because he's a really good counter-attacking type of player as well. So yeah, I think this fixture is really nice for Son and Maddison, obviously. Maddison has been really good the last few game weeks as well, so I'm hoping for a big score from Maddison. Yeah, I think these two guys just pick themselves really. I don't really need to talk too much about them, and I think Son is quite clearly the best captaincy option as well. You could go with someone like Ivan Toney, who has his birthday as well on the day that he's playing Burnley on Saturday. That might swing things in your favor, or in his favor, I guess, if you want to bet on Toney in that way. So maybe Toney could be a really good option there as well, but I don't know. I think Son just he plays for a better team, obviously, in Spurs, a more offensively minded team. He's getting a lot of points lately, and Spurs are looking so good when they have older guys, offensively at least, back. Van de Ven is now out injured, it seems like, so that will hamper them defensively, but again, that will just make them more offensively minded because they want to score more goals than the opposition, and they do that by going super attackingly and scoring as many goals as possible, basically. So really like Son as captain. I really like Maddison as co-captain, I guess. Not co-captain, but like a supporting captain for Son, or supporting Son with his goal potential. And I don't think Richarlison's going to be back for this game either, so it seems like Son is going to play up front again. And I think that's going to be huge for Son's possibilities of getting another double-digit haul. So yeah, Son is my captain basically, and Maddison I'm really happy to have in the squad as well. Then we have the double up in midfield from West Ham, like I mentioned earlier in the free hit plans. Just really like backing my own team, West Ham, and hoping that they do well against Aston Villa. It's also a pretty decent fixture at home to a team that conceded a lot of goals lately, conceded 4 goals to Spurs. I've conceded 2, 3, 4 goals in a lot of games lately, so and a lot of injuries defensively for Aston Villa as well. So yeah, I just like the look of both Bowen and Kudus. Bowen is going to be a pretty template pick in general, so yeah, having him is sort of like a must, because I don't want to be without Bowen and see him score like a double-digit haul for most teams in Gameweek 29, whether you're free hitting or not, and I'm not having him. I did also sort of consider Souček and Paquetá as well. Paquetá is going to be on penalties, most likely. That's the reason why he's good. He scored a goal from open play as well last time around against Burnley. He's playing pretty attackingly, so he could be a good option as well. You also have Souček, who just scores goals, scores important goals for West Ham as well, and could have like the biggest score of them all this game week. Wouldn't put it past him to score 2 goals, for example, this game week. But I think Bowen and Kudus are the more exciting players. They're the more attacking players. They're going to play 90 minutes pretty much regardless. Kudus is probably seen as more rotation risk than Bowen, but Kudus has played 90 minutes in the last like 8 games in a row, I think, for West Ham. So Moyes clearly trusts him at this point and really likes him, and for good reason. Kudus is an absolutely amazing player, and I'm looking forward to be able to root for Kudus finally this season, because I haven't had him so far this season. So yeah, just having Kudus for this match, seems like a really nice idea for me. So yeah, I really like Kudus and Bowen in general. Obviously, I'm a West Ham fan. I really like both of them, and it would be really nice to see them score and West Ham to have a really nice win against Aston Villa. But we'll wait and see what happens in that game. Then we have Anthony Elanga, and I think a lot of people have been put off by him because he was benched the last game week for some reason. I don't know why Nottingham Forest decided to play a pretty weekend side against Brighton, who had just lost 4-0 against Roma in the Europa League. But for some reason, Nottingham Forest played like a lesser side in that game. For what it's worth, I think Avani will start up front rather than Wood as well. So he's also someone that I could potentially go with, but I'm not sure. When it comes to Avani and Wood, I feel like they will just split the minutes, so I don't really like any of them that much. You could also obviously go with someone like Gibbs White as well. For Nottingham Forest, he's on penalties, and he's pretty pivotal to what Nottingham Forest do, but I think Elanga just has more of a whole potential in him because he's someone that gets a lot of chances. He hasn't really scored that many chances. That's the downside of Elanga. He's not that efficient, but if he can actually convert his chances into goals, he has a really high point potential this game week. Luton as well, they are really susceptible to conceding goals against right-wing players, like we just saw with Semenyo for Bournemouth. And we've seen a couple times this season, Luton against right-wingers is trouble for Luton, basically. So I think that bodes really well for Elanga, who's really quick and can basically score on the counter-attack. And yeah, he just finds his way into the box and gets big chances. So I think Elanga has a really high ceiling. I think he's a really nice differential pick. And that's why I'm going with him and the reason why I have a 5-man midfield and just two men up front, because I do like Tony, I do like Watkins, but apart from those guys, it's hard for me to pick out a third attacker. I could go with someone like Muniz. I have thought about Fofana for Burnley as well. I think there are going to be a lot of goals in the Burnley against Brentford match, so Fofana is definitely in consideration there. You can see Jan Wissa is on my bench as well. He's also someone that I'm really considering. He's scored a lot of goals lately, but Wissa for in his own right as well is not getting 90 minutes every week. He keeps getting subbed off around 60, 70 minutes, and that's been a pattern for Wissa under Thomas Frank with Brentford. So that's why I'm sort of put off by him compared to someone like Elanga, for example. But it's always also Carlton Morris, so I think shouldn't be overlooked, even for people that are free hitting. It's easy to think that, I have my free hits and I don't need Carlton Morris like everyone else that brought him in for Game28 to have him in 28 double and then 29 blank. It's easy to overlook Morris for that fact, also for the fact that he blanked in 2 games in a row now for Luton, but he's looked really dangerous and he had a lot of good chances, especially against Bournemouth as well. Probably should have had 2 goals in that game when it comes to 2 headers that he missed. So I think Morris is a really good shout, and he's someone that I might go with. It's just, again, I'm on a free hit. I'm sort of falling for that same fallacy, I guess, that I don't really want to go with someone that is already in a lot of teams. For those guys who are not free hitting, maybe I'm getting trapped by that thought myself. But I don't know. I really like Morris, but I like Elanga as well. It's one of those 2 guys probably, because I think the rest of the team, for me at least, with the West Ham players, sort of pick itself. But there is going to be a different free hit suggestion for those 2 guys who are not West Ham fans, and I'm going to present that to you in the FPL Score podcast, because I think the manager of the week should free hit, and I don't think he needs to free hit with West Ham players in mind like I have done. But this is my squad for what it's worth. On the bench, I have Mats Sells, the goalkeeper for Nottingham Forest. Don't really know if he would be my backup goalkeeper anyways, but I think just Ariel is going to play anyway, so it doesn't really matter that much. Jan Wissa, who I mentioned, really good potential, has scored in 3 game weeks in a row now, but he has also that minutes restriction sort of thing for Brentford. We know Mopai is going to come in and play at some point that game probably, so I like Wissa, but I'm not completely sold on him in general. Then we have Nico Williams from Nottingham Forest playing against Luton. I don't know. I think Luton will score in that game, so maybe I'll bring in someone else to be my backup there. But Nico Williams is playing pretty a lot of minutes lately for Nottingham Forest, basically. So he's most likely the most nailed and most attacking defender from Nottingham Forest. So that's why I picked him. But again, it's just a bench option. And then Pau Torres as well for Aston Villa, playing for the best team apart from Spurs in this double game week against a team in West Ham that have been sort of on and off this season. So yeah, he's also just on the bench just to have another player there, basically. But in general, pretty happy about this team. Pretty excited about Free 29. Pretty excited to have triple West Ham and be able to root for West Ham easily. It's always easy to root for West Ham, but even more so now with no one being able to hurt me in FPL and yeah, basically all players players that I really like watching play as well. Even Ariola, who's a goalkeeper, he's one of the more entertaining goalkeepers to watch because he has a lot of fantastic saves. He is a really good goalkeeper, among the top 10 goalkeepers in the Premier League in my mind at least. But yeah, so pretty excited and happy about my free hits team. Pretty happy and excited about my rank. Looking forward to getting into the top 10k. Fingers crossed for Game Week 30, and then I'll have a really nice team for Game Week 30 and beyond with Salah, Son, Palmer, Saka, Haaland, Watkins for at least Game Week 30. I'm going to sell him in 31 most likely. And all the defenders that I really like as well. Gabriel, obviously not in Game Week 30, but beyond that, he's going to be great. Gusto, Brantwaite, Sabarni, Aitnori. I have a lot of players that I really like going forward. So really happy with my team, really happy with my free hits 29 plans and my chip strategy in general. So looking forward to the end of the season and see if I can solidify myself within the top 10k and potentially push on to be into the top 1k, which would be absolutely amazing because I've never finished inside the top 1k. My best finish is 1,347, I want to say, something around that. So if I could beat my personal best, that would be absolutely amazing. But there's still a long ways to go. Still a lot of game weeks left to play. But I'm really excited to see the rest of the season. So yeah, with that, I'm leaving you with a thank you for watching, as I usually do. Hope you can subscribe if you like what you see in this video. Maybe not my face, but at least my words and my plans. And I'll see you again next time. So thank you for watching again, and goodbye.